How's it? Welcome back. So I had a comment come in that was rather entertaining actually, and also had a bunch of questions crammed into it. So I thought for this video, I would go over that comment and reply back with my answers. So hopping in, couple random questions and things. I've heard there can be auditory hypnagogic hallucinations. Is that difficult to differentiate between songs stuck in your head? It's a bit weird, but sometimes when going to bed, I'll hear lots of incomprehensible conversations between people from conversations I had during the day. So yeah, you can absolutely have auditory types of hypnagogic hallucinations. I actually made a video like a week ago that I just haven't posted yet, where someone was asking about the whole auditory thing and then the falling sensation that people can get, and wanted to know if that happens in hypnagogy as well. And so yes, it totally can. Now for me personally, I don't know if it's just because I'm so visually oriented. The visual parts of the hypnagogy is always what kicks in for me initially, which is why that's pretty much like almost exclusively what I tend to talk about on the channel. But yeah, you can absolutely start to have those. I mean, I guess it's not hard to differentiate in a way from like just a song that's stuck in your head, because once you enter into that liminal state, you actually start to literally hear it. But essentially what's going on there, or at least the way that I see it, it's all just the basic background chatter and noise that's going on in your head. You enter into the state, and sometimes the auditory side of that can come through. So whether that be a conversation you had earlier in the day that you're thinking about that can come through, or perhaps even a conversation that never even happened, but just some potential conversation you had running around in your head, that can pop up. Now for me personally, and I only get this when I'm like super duper excessively tired, like really sleep deprived, been running it hard for a long time, forcing myself to stay awake with way too much caffeine, something like that, is I tend to hear music. And so I'll be like lying down sometimes and I hear like this music coming through and I think like, oh man, like I can really hear it. And so I'll default to thinking that it's the hypnagogic state, right? Because I've had this happen before. But sometimes the music will be coming through so clear and so loud, I gotta think like, man, wait, is somebody just playing music at some odd time of night or whatever? So I'll wake myself up out of it and really listen. I'll be like, oh wait, no, it's silent. I'm tripping. But when that does happen, I find that state very interesting. So a lot of times I'll just kind of sit in it and, enjoy the music, essentially. Also, I used to be pretty good at what I assume is what you call the body buzz meditation, where I used to lie very still, and this happens most significantly after I watched 2001: A Space Odyssey, which had lots of trippy visuals, and when I was going to sleep, I was lying very still and could feel myself spinning and could kind of control spinning in different directions. But I know you're not supposed to do that during hypnagogia. I'm gonna come back to that. But back then I thought it would be a good practice of dream control type thing or something. So yeah, actually, like I say the complete opposite to that. I think you should absolutely, when you can get that spinning sensation in the hypnagogic state, absolutely play around with it. That's one of the first ways that I started to introduce some level of control into this whole hypnagogic space, and started to figure out that that's something that you can do. And I do think it's great practice and training grounds for straight up REM style lucid dreaming practice. You're essentially working very similar types of mental muscles. And then if not that, if you just want to ignore that part, one thing that's absolutely happening, right, is you're learning how to balance this fine line between exerting too much control and effort and waking yourself up out of that liminal dream state and staying within it, right? And that is a skill that's, extremely useful within a straight up regular REM style lucid dreaming practice. Oh, where are we? Yeah, so for a while I could kind of consistently do that perfectly still lying thing and focusing on my body and feeling it spin around. And maybe this is just because I haven't been focusing enough, but recently it's been more difficult. And so yeah, it's not always going to be easy. Even for me, sometimes I have great control in the liminal dreaming state or even lucid dreams as well. But sometimes, it's just off for whatever reason. So, things come and go. Sometimes you're around it, sometimes you're not. Also, another thing that I find kind of confusing is the balance between relaxing and focus. I once tried a technique called reverse blinking, where you open your eyes every once in a while, and I don't know if it was just because of the schema of me expecting it to, but it kind of worked. But I got confused because I was really relaxed, but also really focused, until I could really sense myself falling asleep, because it felt weird Like usually you don't realize when you're falling asleep, but I could feel myself losing consciousness, and it felt so weird, and my body was eventually kind of rejecting it because I don't know how to describe it, but it felt like I was about to die or something. So first of all, with the reverse blinking thing, I know I've brought that up in a video or two in the past, and I went to my YouTube channel and tried to type in the word reverse blinking, but apparently I didn't title the video that, so I couldn't find it. But I have messed around with reverse blinking before. I didn't use it to the extent that I think you're supposed to use it, but I remember not really liking it because it kept me just too awake. But then in a way it did kind of work, because as I was doing it, right, you lie down every once in a while, you just quickly open your eyes and close them. And also another little wrinkle to that is you're supposed to open your eyes, and whatever you can see, you try to kind of like hold that in your memory as you close your eyes again. But like, I just got sick of doing it, and I got too lazy or too tired perhaps, and I just gave up and said, screw it, I'm just going to keep my eyes closed. But then because I did that, I got pretty far towards the sleeping process. So then when I did close my eyes, it wasn't that long until I went ahead and hit Hypnagogic, which, in a lot of sense can actually be kind of what you'd want to use that whole thing for. Although from what I understand, reverse blinking is specifically used as a way to try and help yourself fall asleep. It's kind of similar to the thing where, like, say if you're lying in bed, or you're trying to stay awake, and sometimes that can be very hard, so you can take that and kind of just like switch it around, and then lie in bed and try to keep your eyes open and stay awake, and then you can kind of like reverse mind fuck yourself out of this being stuck awake thing, and actually because you're trying to stay awake, you'll hopefully go ahead and fall asleep. And then as far as you realizing your body getting really tired, and sleep is coming on really quickly, and feeling like your body's gonna reject it, and feeling like you might die or something. Now that's a state that I get to pretty often when I sleep. I mean, if I had to put a percentage on it, it'd be hard for me to guess, but pretty often. I mean, at least close to like 50% of the time, or maybe a lot more than that. Because as I'm going to sleep, my general procedure is, relax, start getting towards the hypnagogic state, and it's just my normal falling asleep process. So I'm very aware of when I'm getting very close to sleep. Like if my wife bothers me or wakes me up or moves in the bed or the dog barks or something, I know how far along this falling asleep process I'm at, basically like all the time. And once you get used to it, the fear of feeling like you might die or whatever, that will totally go away. Where are we now? Gotta move down here. Anyway, this part really isn't relevant to whatever this question is, but I eventually fell asleep and had a kind of false awakening where this part's funny, where I was in my room and a bright kind of godly light was shining through the curtains, and when I opened the blinds, I was expecting to meet God or something, but it was just the impractical jokers with a spotlight and a crane or something. They were laughing at me because I thought I would see God or a spiritual thing. So that's pretty funny, but I also think that highlights how, expectation really rules the dreaming space to a large degree. But it ain't always right. Like, there you're expecting to see God. So typically when it comes to dream control stuff, you would expect that expectation to play through. But then you kind of got hit with like a surprise there. So, that might have just been your subconscious mind playing around with you and messing with you a bit. Anyway, I guess my question about this is kind of about how wilds work, and whether you're like truly aware and conscious from the moment you lie down to in the dream, and if that's difficult to balance with relaxation without the weird death panic thing. So, at least when it comes to have a true wild, in my opinion, or at least what I would consider to be a wild for myself, because I have a lot of like soft kind of fake wilds, is you will witness the entire transition. So, maybe if it takes you a long time to fall asleep in bed, maybe you're spacing out there, not really conscious in a sense there, although you're totally not sleeping. But to have a true wild, at least before you like basically enter into the hypnagogic state and transition, hopefully into REM, to have a real wild, right? You will witness every single transition, within that span of time. And that's really when I tend to have like the really awesome wilds, where you feel the physical sensation, that the body high that can go along with it, like you being sucked or pulled in to the dream. And now for me, I have a lot of things that I think some people, maybe they would consider it a wild, but I don't, where, one of my main ways to use wake back to bed, which you're going to bring up here in the next part of the question, is I don't do it the traditional way. I set an alarm, or I wake up because I have to pee, or the dog barks, or something wakes me up, right? I immediately start to recall whatever dreams I was coming out of and immediately start going back to sleep. Now, what happens more often than not when I'm going through that process, if I do happen to get lucid with it, is I don't know if I miss the transition into REM. Sometimes I don't feel like I did, but like the crazy body high doesn't come along with it. And I'm not sure why that is, but say I'll be replaying back the dream in my head, and then all of a sudden I'll realize, oh wait, I'm actually dreaming now. I'm in it in the first person. And yeah, if that's a wild or not, I'm not totally sure. So I'm assuming this is why wake back to bed, conjunction with wilds are advised, because it changes with the sleep cycle or something, so that you can skip the earlier stages before dreaming. Yeah, so when we go to sleep, most of the time, at least for the majority of the population, the first 2 sleep cycles are roughly 3 hours. Each sleep cycle is about 90 minutes. That's when we tend to go through our deep sleep. And then after that state, everything past the 3-hour mark essentially of being asleep, you go from like light stage of sleep essentially into REM, pop out on hypnopompia for a little bit, briefly wake up, back down into stage 1, into REM, hypnopompia, rinse and repeat. Now, there are some things you can do to trick that, such as if you're really sleep deprived for whatever reason. You would think if you were really sleep deprived, then you probably would need more deep sleep, but for whatever reason, it seems to be if you're really sleep deprived, you tend to hit REM a lot earlier. So like, you can go first time lying down at night without doing any wake back to bed. Really sleep deprived, you can sometimes go from light stage of sleep, stage 1, directly into REM and have a wild. I also think that there probably are some people out there like, oh God, the book I covered a while back, I forget the name of it, like The Wild Way to Lucid Dreaming maybe was the name of it, but he seems to like not going to deep sleep. He goes to sleep initially at night and he goes stage 1 of sleep directly into REM like all the time, which trips me out, and I felt jealous because I can't do that, and I love having real legit wilds. But maybe some people are just have a different genetic makeup, so maybe they don't need deep sleep, or if they do go through deep sleep, stage 3, 4 slow brainwave stuff, maybe that happens for them at a different part of the night. So instead of being in the beginning, maybe that comes for them midway through the night or towards the end. Who knows? Okay, where are we at? So also going back to the hypnagogic thing, is it ever difficult to differentiate between imagery from hypnagogia and just stuff you imagine? Like, is there a clear distinction in how they appear? Like before I knew about any of this stuff, when I was younger, I used to do this thing when I was sleeping where I'd just try to think of nothing and wait until something pops up, and whether it be random or something I was thinking about earlier, I would just kind of take it in and then let the next thing come up, and sometimes eventually they would morph from one image to the next, and there'd be cool patterns and stuff. But I don't think that's hypnagogia, but I don't know, because I've had one time where I was asleep and I actually noticed a dream landscape slowly forming where I was on a bus, but that felt a lot more immersive and feasible, question mark. I don't know if that's the right word, and I'm kind of forgetting what I'm saying and kind of going off track, but yeah, I guess what I'm asking is how different is it from just imagining things? Because to me, when I just imagine a dream in my head, it's very different to if I was actually in the dream, even if it's just a visual thing. I don't know what I'm asking. Does this make sense? LOL. So, I mean, when it comes to you just like, mentally thinking about or trying to picture something and then entering into the hypnagogic state, they really kind of are the same thing. It's just that when you're entering into the hypnagogic state, all your external senses have retreated, and so everything, if you do manage to be conscious in this state, is all focused internally. So the way I see it is, it's whatever you were thinking about, whether you purposely picturing something in your head or not. Just once all your external senses retreat, you can't hear anything anymore, you can't feel your body anymore, which is where the whole body buzz meditation thing comes in. It all gets focused internally, and boom, all of a sudden, whatever you're thinking about becomes full-blown visual, right? So there is a difference in, some people, I guess, can really picture things well in their head while they're fully wide awake. I kind of cannot do that. But, when you enter into this hypnagogic state, it really pops up clear, visible, and then it will build in visibility, right? Sometimes in the really early stages of hypnagogic, it can kind of just be like a black, like imprint or outline of whatever it is you're seeing, like a grayish outline of it, but then color moves in, Typically, it'll be just like a snapshot at first, or a really short moving scene, but then it just starts moving more and more like a straight up movie. Sometimes it can be in a small area, then it will kind of expand out till it's covering your entire vision. Then if you're lucky enough to have a wild, you go straight from this big wide vision where it's more like you're watching it versus you being in it. You have the wild, you get sucked into the image. Boom, you're in a full-on REM style dream in the first person. All the physical sensations and everything come back into it. All the auditory sounds, everything comes into play. And it's really awesome. So anyway, thanks for that comment. I had fun going through it. And yeah, that's it. Until the next video, keep your lucid dreaming practice legit.